Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Ainsworth, and we're going to get into a topic called annual yield. And what we want to do is calculate the annual yield of an investment. So let's start off with the definition right here of annual yield and apply it. And also apply the techniques that we've been working on when it comes to compounding money. Okay, now annual yield, okay, all it is, it's the percent increase of an investment over a 1 year period. All right. So the percent increase. So you obviously have to go back and recall how do you calculate a percent increase. So let's do that first, and then we'll calculate the annual yield over a 1 year period of an investment. So the percent increase, if you remember and recall from previous lessons here, is the new value divided by the original, all right, minus 1. That gives you a decimal. So to change that to percent, you got to multiply it by 100, and then it gives you some percent. New divided by original, minus 1. That's the decimal. Change it to percent by multiplying by 100, and you'll get your percent increase, which is just the annual yield of an investment over a 1 year period. So what we need to do is take an investment, and we're going to take a $1,000 investment at an annual interest rate of 5%, so that's in key right there. And we're going to calculate how much we earn after 1 year. Okay, so 1 year only, because it's again over a 1 year period. And we're going to calculate that as a percentage called the annual yield. It's actually quite simple, so let's get to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that $1,000 investment and we're going to compound it annually, quarterly, monthly, and then daily. We're going to calculate how much we get after 1 year and then calculate the annual yield, which is just the percent increase. You know, how much money did we make as a percentage? Okay, so here we go. So again, the growth model, P sub n, is always equal to the initial amount times r to the nth power. So we got to calculate a growth rate first, okay? And let's do it annually first. So with a 5% annual interest rate right here, the growth rate is a 105%. 100 plus 5 is 105%. And as a decimal, that's 1.05. So you calculate your growth rate first. And then you apply your formula here. Sorry about that. Okay, that was a little funny interruption there. So let's calculate it here. So here we go. So P sub 1, or we're going to take $1,000 here. There's your initial investment times your growth rate, 1.05. And we're going to take that to the first power because we're going to go through 1 year. Okay, n is equal to 1 because we have 1 year here, 1 period. So let's calculate that. So 1,000, all right, times 1.05, and we get 1,050 bucks. So this is after 1 year. So we obviously made 50 bucks in that 1 year. The question is, what is the percent increase of that? What does that represent? Okay, so the annual yield is the percent increase. So we take our new value divided by original. All right, so that's 1,050 divided by 1,000 minus 1, and then we got to multiply it by 100 to get to percentage, right? And this is very important right here. We want to use at least 3 decimal places for the percent, and the reason why is because you got to see the percentage change. We're going to do that for all these calculations right here. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to take 1,050. We're going to divide it by 1,000, the original amount. All right, we're going to subtract 1. Oh, you got to actually put the numbers in. So let's try that again. So 1,050. Come on, 1,050 divided by 1,000. You got to do it right. Okay, minus 1. See, now that gives you a decimal, right? To change it to percent, you multiply it by 100. All right, and you get 5%. So that's a 5% yield, where yield means gain, okay? And that makes sense because the annual interest rate is 5%. That's if you only compound it once a year, doing it annually. But if you do it quarterly, you make more money, as we found out. And if you do it monthly, you even make even more money. And if you do it daily, you make even more money because the compounding daily is the best. All right, the question is, how much better than 5% can you get? So what's great about this lesson is not only do you practice how to compound different ways. And not only do you practice how to calculate annual yield, but the annual yield will tell you which method is the best. All right, so let's calculate it for if we do it quarterly now. Okay, now quarterly means 4 times a year, right? 4 times per year. So what we need to do is take the annual interest rate of 5%, and we got to calculate the quarterly rate. So we got to divide that by 4. Okay, now what is that? Well, 5 divided by 4. 5 fourths, 1 1/4, 1.25. All right, if you don't know how to do that in your head, you just go 5 divided by 4 and you get 1.25. So this is equal to 1.25%. So your growth rate is 100 plus that, 100 plus 1.25%, which is obviously equal to 101.25%. So R in this case is 1.0125. All right, when you change it to a percentage, excuse me, as a decimal. So we take our initial investment of 1,000, multiply it by our growth rate, which is 1.0125. All right, and now we raise it to the number of, not years, all right, the number of quarters per year. And there's 4 quarters per year, so we're going to raise it to the 4th power because they're going to compound it quarterly. All right, 4 times per year, so make sure you have the right exponent there. So let's calculate that. It should be a little bit better than the previous one because doing it quarterly, you're compounding sooner than annually, so you should make a little bit more money. All right, so we take $1,000. We're going to multiply it by our growth rate, 1.0125, raised to the 4th power because we're compounding it 4 times a year. And notice that we get a little bit more money here. We get $1,050.95. So $1,050.95. Run it to the nearest penny. So this is our new value, right? We start off with 1,000 and we now have $1,050.95. So let's calculate the annual yield. So $1,050.95 divided by 1,000 minus 1 and then multiply by 100, and then we're going to round it to 3 decimal places. So we're going to write down at least 3 decimal places as a percentage. So we take our value here, divide it by 1,000, okay, minus 1. That's your decimal. Multiplying it by 100 gives you percentage here. All right, and we get 5.0945. I'm going to write down the first 5 digits, okay? So 5.0945. 5.0945%. So if you compare the gains already, the yields, we're going to call them yields, but you know, yield is the same thing as gain, right? Okay. You notice that if you do it quarterly, the yield's higher, which means it's a better way to compound your money because you earn more over time. You earn 95 cents more, and it doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about a lot of money, like we're talking about corporations that invest millions, we're talking about thousands of dollars difference just by a little percentage gain. So keep that in mind. Now, when you do it monthly, that's 12 times per year. So 12 times per year. All right, because there's 12 months in a year. So the periodic interest rate at 5%, which should be 5% divided by 12. Now, if you do that in your calculator, let's see what it is. 5 divided by 12. You notice that it's repeating. And I said don't round. Okay, so we're not going to round in this case. We're going to leave it like it is. So we're going to take 100%, all right, plus this percentage here, divided by 12, and we're going to convert this to a decimal. So that's 1 plus 0.05 divided by 12. There's your growth rate. So what we want to do is take $1,000, all right, multiply it by the growth rate. All right, and in 1 year there's 12 months, so it's going to compound 12 times. You're going to raise it to the 12th power. All right, because there's 12 months per year. We're going to compound it monthly, so we're going to compound it 12 times. You're going to multiply by the growth rate 12 times per that year. And let's figure out what we get. So let's take $1,000, multiply by our growth rate. All right, and raise it to the 12th power. And we should get a little bit more than the previous one, in which we do. All right, we get $1,051.16. Okay, so let's calculate our yield. So we take the new value, $1,051.16, divided by the old, subtract 1, which gives us a decimal, and then change it to percent. We multiply it by 100. Okay, so we divide it by 1,000. All right, minus 1. That gives us a decimal, times 100. And we get a percentage here. We're going to write down the first 4 digits here, first 5 digits. So 5.1161. So 5.1161%. All right, and notice that we have a bigger gain, right, or a bigger yield. I'm going to say yield because that's a proper business term here. So notice that doing it monthly yields more, or you gain more money than the previous one. All right, so monthly is better than quarterly. So what's better than quarterly? Well, it's daily, okay, 365 times a year. So let's calculate our periodic interest rate. So we're going to take our 5% divided by 365. Okay, that's called a periodic interest rate. In this case, it's a daily interest rate. So the growth rate would be 100% plus that. Okay, change it to a decimal. So 1 plus 0.05 divided by 365. And then calculate your future value. So we have a $1,000 investment multiplied by our growth rate. Now it's going to compound daily. So it's going to be multiplied 365 times. So we're going to raise it to the 365th power. And we should get a little bit more than the previous one. It should yield a little bit better, or a little bit more money. So let's take $1,000, multiply by our growth rate, 1 plus 0.05 divided by 365. That's our daily interest rate. Raise it to the 360. Oh, I made a little mistake right there. 365. Got to press the right buttons, right? Okay, there we go. And raise it to the 365th power because there's 365 days a year. And notice that we yielded more. We gained more money. The previous value was $1,051.16. Here we have $1,051.27. So $1,051.27 if you round to the nearest penny. So what's our yield? So we have 1,051.27 divided by 1,000 minus 1 times 100. So we work on that. So you divide it by 1,000 minus 1, hit enter, change it to percent by multiplying by 100, and you get 5.1267. So 5.1267% yield. And notice that that's higher than the previous one. Why? Because we gain more money. So when you calculate annual yields, which is per year, the yield per year, you want to write the decimal or the percentage as a decimal to it, and write down at least 4 or 5 digits of the decimal so you can see the changes. Okay, so let's just take a look at the whole thing all at once. See, look at that. All right, so when you do it annually, okay, the yield is the same as the percentage. When you do it quarterly, that's better than annually, and you get a little bit higher yield. If you compound it monthly, you get even a higher yield, which means you make more money. And if you compound it daily, you get the highest yield because you're compounding it more times per year, which means your money grows faster than the previous methods. Okay? Shoot, I'm sorry. Come on. Going a little crazy here. There we go. There we go. All right, so the best method here, or the way to make most money here, is compounding daily. Better than that would be compounding continuously, like every second of the day. All right, if you calculate that, you'd have a lot of fun. However, this annual yield is pretty simple to find. You just calculate the percentage increase, taking new divided by original minus 1, and then times it by 100. All right, so the only thing you need to do is get some experience on that. So turn the page. All right, start working on the next example here. In this one here, we're going to invest $6,000 at 14% annual interest rate. And again, you're going to calculate the annual yield for each one of the 4 methods here. And then after that, you're going to get into a review and practice over all the different types of money situations that we have encountered. Okay, so give this a shot here. Compare with me when I see you in class, and I'll see you then. This is Mr. Ainsworth. I'm signing off. Get to work. Bye-bye.